Hello, hello, welcome to another video. And with the recent news in gaming this week, gaming as a whole could potentially kind of change forever, and it's a little scary. Now, there's two bits of news I'm going to talk about, and the more juicy one that people have probably heard or talked about more is Sony potentially buying FromSoft. Now, it's not fully just Sony buying FromSoft. It is Sony purchasing the parent company that owns FromSoft. I'm pretty sure Sony already owns like a chunk of FromSoft right now. Nothing like I'm trying to think what they're not majority. They're a minority owner of FromSoft. I'm pretty sure, or of the company. And I feel like that's why something like Bloodborne got a deal with Sony. You know, it seems like that kind of relationship is a lot easier just because Sony's more tied in with FromSoft. But Sony has not bought FromSoft. They have not bought the parent company that owns FromSoft. They have just simply sent a letter of intent to buy the company that owns FromSoft. The parent company is Katawaka Corporation. They own a lot of stuff, you know, is kind of in their lump sum. The idea I always have is kind of like Coca-Cola, stuff like they own so much stuff you never really realize it. And that's kind of like this company. I heard that they own kind of like Japanese version of YouTube or something like that in a way. I'm not certain, but this company owns the vast majority of FromSoft, as FromSoft is not like their own individual kind of thing. This parent company owns them. And Sony sending the letter of intent puts it into legitimate motion of Sony looking to buy the company. There has been rumors this year even of Sony looking at buying FromSoft and whatnot. And now that the company themselves, Katawaka, I think I said it right, has announced that nothing is imminent, nothing like that, but they've received a letter from Sony saying that Sony intends to buy the company. Very big news. Huge news. Now, this isn't going to be something that I assume takes place this year, next year. I think it's going to be a genuine large type of thing where it'll have to get regulated and stuff like that, go through some random courts. It just seems like it's most likely going to go down that way. Always kind of happens, especially when big companies buy other big companies. So this is likely kind of like a few year process. And even then, if Sony was to buy it, Lord knows, maybe they don't fuck with it very much. I don't fully believe that. I'm just saying I hope that. But it does create a lot of worry in the fact of, could this mean all FromSoft games going forward after this, are they potentially only going to be PlayStation exclusive? You'd assume probably do what they're doing now with exclusive a year later or so comes to PC, which I think would vastly hurt the community of FromSoft. FromSoft is a very wide, welcoming, most of the time, community. You know, it's a full game series essentially of just continuously getting beaten down but getting back up. Like, that's the real like inner real life theme of FromSoft games. You're going to get absolutely slapped around all the time. Once you get the hang of it, you eventually realize you're going to make it. Similar life, right? And I feel like with the FromSoft games always being, you know, so multi-platform, you know, PlayStation, PC, Nintendo games at some point, I'm pretty sure, maybe not. Xbox, stuff like that, they really throw a wide net to try and get everyone to come in and try their game, stuff like that. Couldn't have been more true with Elden Ring. Elden Ring was definitely the most like accessible FromSoft game, being that it was so open world, so that it wasn't necessarily like you have to struggle through this boss fight or spend hours grinding terribly boring mobs to try and level up and help a little bit. You know, this Elden Ring, very different, seems very much easier than other FromSoft games, but I think they did that to try and kind of grow the the population of the game, if that makes sense. But obviously this news comes as kind of a scare for a lot of that, especially when you look at the one and only game that is exclusive to PlayStation and Sony that came from FromSoft, being Bloodborne. It's sitting over there. I've talked about this before. I can see it. It's the farthest right there, the red cover. It's greatest edition. I've never even started, I don't think. I think I got it for like 15 or 10 bucks. It's a sale. The game had been out. I've never even heard, really, of FromSoft games at the point. I think I might turn it on and went, what the hell am I playing? Stopped. But that game is the only one that is PlayStation Sony exclusive, to my knowledge, unless some of like the old Armored Core games might have been, but really, I don't know. And if you know the Bloodborne fan base, if you know anything about Bloodborne, you know that it's pretty universal that Sony has fucked the dog on that whole goddamn thing. And literally every year it feels like they're continuously shitting the bed when it comes to their handling of Bloodborne, making it more accessible for people. It's the complete opposite in the fact of they've done nothing for it. No remaster at all. The game's however old, it's beloved. It's the perfect kind of prototype for a game that you would think would get a remaster, in the fact of it's came out in like 2015, I want to say, around that time. A lot of changes in gaming. Could definitely use some upscaling. It only runs at 30 frames. It could really use a remaster. While also being a FromSoft game, FromSoft is like the hottest kind of commodity it's been in ever, just because of how big Elden Ring was as a thing. And then the DLC also delivered. The DLC's fucking Game of the Year nomination. Like, it's as peak as FromSoft games ever probably will be, realistically. And they've continuously never even a peep about anything. It's so bad they never even decided to throw this a port. I'm sure it would take some work, definitely not as much work as just remaking or remastering the game, but to put out a port on PC so people can either mess with settings to try and bump it up to 60 frames, or even for just let people who have PCs and not a PS4 enjoy the game. You know, if you want to be a dick about it and cap it at 30 frames and whatever else, fine, go right ahead. But the fact that you're not even allowing people to play the game is mind-blowing. And I have to just hope that if Sony were to buy FromSoft, they see Elden Ring's success, all this kind of stuff, they're like, okay, let's try and keep as many people in this as possible, while also, you know, getting your money's worth, stuff like that out of it. I mean, it does make me a little worried that FromSoft will be forced into simply only making giant open worlds, and that it might eventually get redundant and kind of, you know, boring. FromSoft is wonderful. Elden Ring was amazing. I never liked open world games, and it like opened my eyes and was like, yeah, this is actually really good. So I'm sure they'll find a way to make it amazing if they keep doing that. But that's the big meat of the news that's been this week that has a lot of people kind of worried and scared. Lord knows. We're going to find out what happens with that. But the other little bit of news is a little Xbox news that they have a new marketing. They dropped a new ad, and it's like, this is an Xbox ad. And they have a bunch of various random shit that they're claiming as an Xbox. And they're going full hog wild, full all the way into this idea that Xbox isn't just a console, it's a platform that you can play games everywhere. And it basically sounds like the final kind of nail in the coffin of they are essentially conceding just consoles, is what it seems like. I don't think they're not going to make a console, but I don't think their main priority is a console and making it as powerful and whatever. They're pivoting onto something else to try and, you know, find success elsewhere. And I think it's a shame. Honestly, I'm glad everything that Phil Spencer has said recently, they're still making consoles. It's crazy how far they fell after like the peak of the 360, and like the Xbox One generation literally just buried the Xbox. It's crazy how quick it happened. And if, like, to me right now, I think if you were just wanting to dumb down the gaming industry into like what is the biggest need right now with this generation, that Sony kind of in a way created a few years ago when they decided to only really focus on the big AAA huge games, but you only get about 2 a year at that at most. And I think we're really feeling it now where it's like there's not that many games that are like, you know, there is a lot of games, don't get me wrong, but it's just from the older generations where it was like stuff rolling out all the time. It feels like if Xbox would have just looked at that and said, you know what, let's not full out go AAA, let's just make a lot of really fun, smaller-esque games and like try and dominate that area with just so much good that, you know, you'll get people that will come and play exclusively on a console. I don't know. That's my 2 cents, though. I think that's probably the way a lot of these companies could do a lot better, is if they pivot slightly away from these giant AAAs, which definitely have the highest highs, but they by far have the deepest of lows. The risk reward for these games that they basically have decided that's all they're going to make now at Sony is pretty wild. But yeah, that's the bit of gaming news this week. I'm planning to play the Xbox or Black Ops 6 campaign and record, and it should be out next week. Be on the lookout for that. I hope you guys have a great weekend. If you enjoyed this and want to hear more, you know, videos of just talking about gaming news and whatnot, be sure to leave a like. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I go through them anytime I get them, and it's pretty fun to kind of get different perspectives. Consider subscribing. I post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.